that all of you are attending today, and we look forward to finding out who's done it. Okay, but before we begin, we just want to have some house rules. Usually when we do our happy hours, we're all in the same room and we're talking away and chatting away. But this is a little bit different. This time, all of you guys are supposed to find out who's done it, and we are all going to be in character, and we're going to give you clues throughout the evening. And then there will be intermission, and we'll bring everyone back in so we can all see each other and gab and do restroom breaks and have a glass of wine. And we have a special, awesome, spectacular vendor sponsor who is going to come and talk to us for a little bit to tell us some exciting news. And then we're going to have round two, and then we're going to have even more fun. So I just encourage all of you to pay close attention, have a lot of fun, and get ready to blame everybody else because I did not do it. Okay? All right. Are we ready, Kath? Are you ready to begin? Oh, yep. One more thing. If you want to communicate with everyone else, please feel free to chat in the chat box where everyone can see. All right. Here we go.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and set the scene. Leota Xavier was the most despised lady in the town of Dreary Hollow. With a sharp tongue and scowls galore, this spinster managed to make more enemies than friends during her miserable lifetime. A five-time widow with more money than good sense, she retired as the headmistress at Dark Harbor Preparatory School a few years ago. She lived alone in a mansion on the outer edge of town with 9 cats and terrorized the townsfolk with her butler, drove her into town. To nobody's surprise, Leota's body was discovered on her front steps early this morning. The Dreary Hollow police have summoned me. We have missing pieces to the puzzle that need to be solved, and these are the prime suspects. This is where the story begins. So, introduce yourself, Francis Bones.
My name is Francis Bones. I am a professor of history at Dark Harbor Preparatory University, not university, but preparatory school. I love teaching, and my students love me.
Meet Lyric.
Hey guys, so I'm Lyric, and I'm a broker, and you know, I'm really busy, so I might be like doing a few things at the same time. Sorry about that. You know, it happens sometimes because, you know, when you're a broker, there's a lot going on. And yeah, remember me for all of your real estate needs, of course. Thanks.
Mr. Ellis.
My name is Ellis Ashes. I'm in the family business of being a grave digger. And okay, sure, I've done a lot of petty crimes, but this crime I did not do. And plus I didn't like her, but I didn't do it.
Meet Chris Dust.
Hi, my name is Chris Dust, and I am your crime scene cleaner. I just really love my job. It's so much fun. I mean, even sometimes when I mess up on things, I clean it up really good so no one ever knows I've done it. But besides that, that's besides the point. And, you know, I'm not a germaphobe, but I do know what goes in germs. So I don't really like hanging out with people. When people come close to me, it really gets on my nerves. But that's okay, because I clean them up too, and that's just really great.
Meet Scully.
Uh-oh, she doesn't sound. You're muted.
Oopsie.
Okay.
I'm Scully Bloodman. I work in the bomb squad technician. You know, this face full of brackles, you know? Yeah. It's just duty calls, you know? But yeah, I didn't do it. Just saying.
Meet Dorian Dark.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dorian Dark, and I work at the hospital. I'm a nurse practitioner, And I know I've been extremely busy here, so I haven't seen many of you around town. It's just that the influx of patients, you know, in the emergency room, you don't want to be here right now. And there's no way that I've had time to go out and murder someone. So just forget it. It's not me.
Joe Reaper.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Reaper, and I am a herpetologist, and I work at Princeton University, and I do research on poisonous snake venom, and it was not me. That's just way too obvious, and I treasure my snakes way too much.
Marion Earn.
My name's Marion. I'm a mortician, and I definitely didn't do it. I haven't had time to do it. You know, everybody's sick and dying. I've been busy, so I didn't do it.
Meet Gabby.
Hey everybody, I'm Gabby Graves, and I'm known as the pest control technician around Dreary Hollow. People seem to think that I'm narcissistic, but you know, I've been working hard around this town for a long time, and I have strong personal values, and I'm resistant to change, and I just want to let you know that I've been doing the same thing for a long time here around town, and if everybody thinks that I'm guilty of this, you're wrong.
And finally, meet Rue.
My name's Rue, and I'm a construction worker. I have my own business. If I'd want to kill Leota, I'd have done took a hammer to her head, because I can tell you, building that mansion more than once, I come close. Why would I be messing around with snake venom? I got better things to do. I've moved on. I'm working on my acting career now. I don't have time for this nonsense of murder and being questioned by these silly cops. It wasn't me.
And finally, let me introduce myself. My name is Detective G. Keller. The R is silent. So we are going to begin with a round of interrogation. Each of the members are going to go around and give a testimony for round one. So Chris, would you start us off?
The lead homicide detective told me Leota Xavier was murdered with snake venom from the inland taipan snake. She was injected with vermin in her chest. The police have tested the syringe and the area for fingerprints, and they did trace analysis of her estate. They also performed a trace analysis on each of us in the group, pulling the fibers and other trace evidence from our shoes, etc. Therefore, they now they know who touched the syringe and which suspect's shoes matches with the trace evidence from Leota's estate. The forensic report should be shared with this group soon. Until then, the group should discuss who had the biggest motive. I was a blood spatter technician for a crime lab for many years, and I wanted more money. So I moved to Dreary Hollow and opened up the crime scene cleaning business. I must be honest, about 2 years ago, when Leota's housekeeper died by falling down the stairs with their spiral staircase, I was sent out there to clean it up and clean all that blood splatter. However, I could clearly tell that the blood splatter pattern that the lady fell from a greater velocity than she could have from an accidental fall. I know the blood splatter technician at the crime lab was a new hire and was just not experienced or confident enough to determine such a thing or make a call to change the case to a homicide. I could have clearly proven in court that she was pushed from behind with a pretty good force, about the full length that Leota Xavier would have been able to do. I have blackmailed her ever since for about $1,000 per week. She had recently said she wouldn't pay me anymore, but I just shrugged it off, happy that she at least paid me $40,000. I mean, seriously. I'm pretty sure that Leota's murderer murdered her butler as soon as he disappeared recently after wrecking a motor voice. His body hasn't been found.
I did not care for Leota Xavier. I figured out that her late husband, Thomas K. Xavier, a former oil tycoon, was poisoned with foxglove toxins. Foxglove, a plant that Leota had in her greenhouse, is used to make the popular heart medicine digitalis. Thomas was prescribed digitalis, but I ran some tests while Thomas was in the ICU, and I found a lethal amount of foxglove toxins in his blood. Leota claims he took too many digitalis by mistake. I know she was lying. The concentration in his blood is higher than the number of pills he would have left in his prescription bottle for that month. Also, he just wouldn't take that many heart pills by mistake. Furthermore, everyone in town knows that Leota, an ex-nurse, married men for their money, so she could murder them and inherit their bank accounts. She was what they referred to as a black widow. The problem is that the attending physician and the coroner didn't buy that the sweet old lady would be that clever to extract the poison from the foxglove plant and administer it to her husband. She wasn't a sweet old lady. She was a cunning, clever mastermind who had everyone fooled, but not me. And Gabby Graves, he's using DDT, which is illegal. Gabby sprayed a small apartment with a bunch of it, and I have the patient in ICU with DDT poisoning symptoms. I have asked that the police and the Environmental Protection Agency investigate Gabby and the homes that Gabby has sprayed with these poisons. And you know that Marion Earn? He used to call me at work in the ICU to see if anybody was about to die, so he could bother the family to sell burial plans to them. I told Marion in the past, but stopped doing it because I felt guilty. Marion was approaching the families of patients that ended up surviving. I thought this was unethical, that Marion couldn't wait until the patients were pronounced dead.
The lead homicide detective told me that Leota Xavier was murdered with snake venom from the inland taipan snake, which is from Australia. The killer stabbed her in the chest with a syringe full of it. In my experience of reading detective novels, the one with the biggest motive should be the prime suspect. I have to be honest, I couldn't stand Leota Xavier, or it was Night back when I knew her. Leota called me trash and expelled me from Dark Harbor Academy after my parents, who put blood, sweat, and tears as gravediggers, saved up enough money to send me there. Any other student in the school would have been given a second chance for such a petty crime, but me? Because I didn't come from the same background as 99% of the students there, was immediately kicked out the first time I ever got in trouble. That's not fair. In my opinion, Leota got what she deserved. I heard that Gabby Graves spews toxic pesticides to treat for pests at clients' homes. People should be wary of hiring Gabby if they have a pest problem. It could be all rumors, but people have come down with unknown illnesses without warning after Gabby sprayed their home.
Oh, come on.
COVID-19. Marion Earn creeps me out. It might be Marion's job in general. Period. People think I have a creepy job, but at least I'm not consorting with dead people at my work. The dead people are far underground in caskets.
But you do carry around that shovel.
The lead homicide detective told me that Leota Xavier was murdered with snake venom from the inland taipan snake. If she was found on the front steps of her mansion in the early morning with the syringe in her chest, then she probably opened the front door, and the murderer ambushed her. It's too bad she didn't have a doorbell camera. The police said there were no witnesses to the crime. She died before the sun rose. I was shocked to hear of Leota Xavier's death. I would have thought that she was immortal, as mean and bitter as she was. The last time I saw her was when she was walking up the sidewalk on Devil's Peak Street toward the beauty salon. I was on the way to Java the Hutt coffee place, and we crossed paths. She swatted her umbrella in my direction and barely missed me because I leaned back. I believe she was trying to hit me with it. Leota was malicious. I admit that I didn't care for Leota because of the way she treated me, a former Marine that served the country for 20 years. She was nasty to me and spent the days trying to get me fired from my job for no reason. She had a bee in her bonnet about me not being qualified or experienced enough to teach at such a prestigious school as Dark Harbor Prep. To be honest, I think I was overqualified, but that's just my opinion. The students all love me, and that should be enough evidence that I was fit for the job. Mary and Ern might try to convince others that I'm guilty. However, he has ulterior motives. If I were out of the picture, Marion would stand to inherit everything from our great aunt, who's 99 years old and about to die from a rare bone disease, among about 8 other things. Neither one of us was close to her, as mean as she was as mean as Leota. Nevertheless, I heard from my mama that she put us both in her last will instead of giving it to some weird knitting charity like she said threatened one year at Thanksgiving.
So the lead homicide detective told me that Leota Xavier was murdered with snake venom from the inland taipan snake being injected via a syringe in her chest. The murderous prints might have been left on the syringe. The police dusted for prints, and they did a trace analysis of her estate, and they've done one on each of us, on all of our shoes. Therefore, they'll know who touched that syringe and whose shoes matched with the trace evidence from Leona's estate. The forensic report should be shared with this group soon. Until then, I must admit, I know how to milk a snake's fangs for venom, but I didn't do this. Yes, I despise Leota Xavier. I think she was capricious. I treated Leota's mansions for spiders last week, which I did perfunctory. She had a ton of them. She wouldn't have found a spider for at least 6 months, so I did my job. Because she immediately got a rat infestation, that's not my fault. Because she immediately got, and I mean, that's such a boondoggle. If she thought I used my access to her estate to release a bunch of rats, she was crazier than everybody thought. There's no way that I would ever do that. It doesn't make sense. Leota tried to ruin my business by smearing my name all over the internet, but that's not a reason to murder her. This is such a quagmire. Dorian Dark has it out for many people in town. Not only did she try to accuse Leota Xavier of murdering her late husbands, but she accused me of using a toxic, illegal pesticide with my applications. Dorian is such a psychopath.
The lead homicide detective told me that Leota Xavier was murdered with snake venom from the inland taipan snake being injected with a syringe in her chest. I must admit that I do have a mating pair of inland taipan snakes at my lab. However, I did not do this. Now, Frances Bones is my best friend, and Frances has been in my lab at the university. Frances comes to see me quite often, usually when he's at lunch or when Frances gets out of school at 3:30. However, it's not in Frances's character to steal, especially snake venom from my lab. I would be shocked if Frances did that. Snake venom is sold all over the dark web. You can get it anywhere. And I must admit, since I am being investigated and since it's likely to come out, that I have sold some snake venom to entrepreneurs that have sites on the dark web. One of my former graduate students was getting a double major and knew a lot about the Tor network and underground websites. It is my understanding that the snake venom I sell them is being sold for research purposes, for labs who can't get around their animal care committees and have great protocols for valuable research that they can't get approved. If I ever found out that the venom was used to murder someone, I would never sell venom again on the dark web. I do like the extra money though. It's how I was able to afford such a nice house.
Hey guys, Lyric here. So the lead homicide detective told a few of us that Leota was murdered with snake venom from the inland taipan snake that's endemic to Australia. I don't know, someone jammed a syringe full of the venom into her chest, and that is so barbaric. Ugh. If she was found on the front steps in her mansion by a jogger, she probably stepped out of her house and the murderer ambushed her. Maybe they rang her doorbell or something. It's too bad she didn't have a doorbell camera. The murder happened sometime before sunrise. Coroner's report said when the jogger discovered her, she'd only been dead for 30 minutes. Leota hired me to sell her mansion, of course. I did so much work cleaning up that place, staging the scene for the photographs. I took the photographs and I cleaned them up in Photoshop, just like a professional that I am. Then I worked for hours to create the perfect listing for her. I've been showing that mansion to so many prospective clients, some of which are interested in even submitting an offer, albeit, well, it might have been for reasons that she might not have wanted, such as opening it up as a murder house and pretending it was haunted because, well, so many people have died there. 5 husbands, maybe some of her staff. So, you know, people would pay to stay there. But I wasn't going to disclose that to her. Let's be honest. She didn't even understand the standard deal that listing agent gets 3% of the sale, selling agent gets another 3%, which is 6% of the sale going to real estate fees. It's standard. She wanted to nix the listing agent fees, but I had already done all that work and it was so unfair. So I was just going to close down the listing and take everything down. And then she died.
I undoubtedly did not care for Leota Xavier. I'll be upfront. Leota stiffed me, no pun intended, on her last husband's coffin because she claimed that she saw a hairline crack in the lid as he was being lowered into the ground. First of all, it's going into the ground under 6 feet of dirt. Who cares? Second, that's no reason to ask for 100% discount on it. She had paid for the coffin with the burial plan before the funeral, but then filed a fraudulent chargeback on the full retail price of the coffin, which I had discounted with the burial plan on her American Express. She received the product and wanted it for free. Also, nobody else saw this supposed hairline crack, just her. That's convenient. Frances Bones probably did this and will try to frame me. Frances is my cousin, but the two of us are estranged.
No.
We never gotten along because Francis is a bully and he terrorized me as a child. Me and Francis, we stand to inherit $3 million from my grand aunt Myrtle. She is very old and very sick. Even though she didn't like either of us, she told everyone in the family that me and Francis were the best of the worst options to leave her money to.
That's awesome.
After she had threatened to leave it all to a knitting charity, whatever that is, one Thanksgiving, and after a family feud broke out. Dorian Dark snapped at me recently after I called to check to see if she was taking care of any terminal patients. I like to get a heads up and contact the family when someone dies before the competing funeral home does. Dorian works in ICU, so she usually knows when people aren't going to make it. She's the one who told me that Leota's late husband was about to die. I guess she felt bad for telling me that, so she refuses to give me any more tips.
The lead homicide detective told me that Leota Xavier was murdered with snake venom from the inland taipan snake being injected via a syringe in her chest. That's just savage. I was hired by Leota to build her a new mansion on the other side of town. She wanted to escape the ghosts of her past. I assumed she meant the 5 husbands she killed in the mansion she lives in. I didn't care for Leota, but I didn't kill her. Actually, her death is going to cost me money. Nobody else in town will be choosing all of these high-end materials, imported Italian marble, custom drapery with 24-karat gold stitching, chandeliers for all the entryways, and more. Snake venom, as well as many other illegal items, is sold all over the dark web. Now, I know a lot about the dark web, as I used to run my future fan site from there. I just think it's rebellious and cool to do that. I checked out many books from the library and watched a bunch of YouTube videos and learned all about it. I'd consider myself a semi-expert about the dark web.
Scully, you're muted.
As everybody knows already, I got the same information from the lead detective. He told me that Leota Xavier was murdered with a snake venom from the island Taipan snake. She died via injection of a ton of that poison. Oof. I wonder how someone in Dreary Hollow could have access to such a venom. Maybe. The snakes from the Australia? Did the killer travel to Australia to get that venom? 20 years ago, I was in the office aide for one period during my senior year at Dark Hollow Preparatory Academy. I was friendly with the victim, Mistress Leota Knight. Just saying, at that time, she was married to another man who is now dead. So she wasn't going by Leota Xavier. I was very disheartened when I saw her in town about 5 years ago after that, and she didn't give me the time of day. Can you believe that? While acting as her office aide at the academy, I was so nice to her. I got her everything that she needed in the office. I was getting coffee, making her copies, going to retrieve the students out of the class when they needed discipline, you know, all that thing. And still, back then, I defended that woman, and I thought I have been different, special enough to break through the mean shell that caused all the other students to hate her. I have seen her in town a couple of times since then, and she was just as mean and nasty to me as she was with everybody else. That hurts my feelings. And if you know me, you hurt my feelings as bad. The detective told me that there are stoplights in the intersections of the Gallows Hill Road, the street that runs in front of the Leota's mansion. Just picture this, okay? So there's cameras in both sides on the stoplights. So they have records. They have records of everybody else that crossed through the interstitials before and after the murder. So picture this. I wonder if this will lead to the killer. The detective also told me, just saying, that the time of death was 6:30 a.m. this morning.
That ends round 1.
Okay, everyone, we really hope you enjoyed round 1. Now we will have we're going to start our intermission. Right before we open it up, we bring everyone in so we can all see each other, guests and all. We want to introduce you to our big, amazing sponsor, Mark. So, Mark, we want to give you a minute to introduce yourself and say hi to everyone. And
hello.
There he is.
Hi, Mark.
Hi. Why can't I see myself?
Okay, you need to
You can't see me
say,
either.
we just sent you permission. So click on,
Oh,
there you
there
are.
There you are. I see you now.
You see how much hair fell out of my head since the last meeting?
No.
So Mark, tell everyone what you do.
Well, I'm a lender with Nations Lending for the past 16 years. And I lend on residential property, 1 to 4 unit. Purchase, refi, we do it all. So that's what I do.
Awesome. So we have a lot of people here today who are guests that are clients of ours. What's the one thing that you can tell a client that might be helpful? Maybe interest rates, refinancing, that they can go back and talk to their agents about and then connect with you.
Well, the good thing is that we have noticed a big increase in purchase business has really come back. There have been a lot of contracts, a lot more pre-quals. So it really seems like the market is snapping back. Interest rates are great. Good credit score, 15-year term, purchase 2.65, fixed. And I remember I have some really good pricing, okay? And a little bit better than most of the market at this point, but 30-year fixed rate terms, good credit. And when I say good credit, 750 or better in that range, you're going to see 3.125, 3 1/4 fixed. I think from probably the 620 to the 694, 695 borrowers, you might see a little bit like a quarter worse. But again, interest rates are so good right now on both refinance and purchase that if you haven't done something and you could possibly improve your position, now would be the time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And everyone, we just want to say that we want to give Mark a great big shout out. Thank you for always supporting us and being an amazing supporter, vendor, lender to us. We appreciate you, especially during this time. We always say those who show up during this time are those who we want to connect with on the other side of this COVID. So please give Mark an opportunity to earn your business and to earn more of it if he's already working with clients. So what we're going to do is it is 6:04. So we are going to take a quick 5-minute break or 6-minute break. Is that good for everyone? Okay, so we're going to bring everyone in. You can stay around and talk and hang out with each other. We're going to invite all the attendees in, or if you want to grab a glass of wine or ask us some questions, and then we'll start back up. So we're going to start inviting you in one by one.
Awesome.
And do you want to start helping me?
Yeah.
I'll start in the bottom. You start in the top.
I already started at the bottom.
Okay, then I'll continue on the top.
I want to let you know, every time I put my mask on my face, I'm trying not to laugh.
What's up, Pat?
Question for
Can't hear you.
Mark. What is on FHA and VA loans, Mark? Where's the credit score requirement now?
You know, Pat, I'm trying to figure out how the hell to respond to this chat thing. I'm not sure how to do that. I have a lot of questions, but
That's why I just ask it like here.
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad. So your question was on FHA, what credit scores are necessary? So
yeah,
FHA from the 580 borrower to the 619 credit score borrower, okay, the lower credit score borrower has taken a position. They will still give that client a 3.5 fixed interest rate, but that interest rate will cost points. They want that lower score borrower for the FHA to have a little bit more risk in the game. Those are the loans that weren't performing properly. Okay, so they made an adjustment, but from 620 up, Interest rates are great. It's still
Okay.
firm pricing. So you can still get a deal done at 580, all the way up into the high 8s, right? Not a problem.
Okay, you have just put aside something I've heard, and I'm so glad. Number 2, conventional loans. Now we've gotten to the point where you could get a 3.5% conventional loan, or a 5, or whatever. What's going on there?
Your question is interest rate?
No, down payment, or
So,
financing percentage.
so on a conventional loan, if a client has not had home ownership in the last 3 years, they could qualify for a 3% down payment.
No.
Really?
Yes. We have to run that through the system to see if we can get an approval through the automated underwriter, okay?
Okay.
And I will say they are hard to get. So
Okay, thank
typically
you.
on a conventional loan, it's a 5% minimum down payment, okay?
Will's did a good
But
job.
again, interest rates are great.
Everyone's doing a good job.
Thank you, Mark. That helps me a lot. I've been a little bit of a gloom and doomer there.
Yeah.
Look at everyone. Oh, y'all are so cool. Are y'all enjoying yourself? Hi, Herb.
Hi, Gene, I saw that you said hi, and I can't figure out how to say hi back on this thing.
At the bottom, there's a square that if you put your cursor down there, it says chat. Click on that, it'll show up on the right and you can type in there.
Chat, gotcha.
Okay, so everyone, I put in there, ask to see video. You don't have to do your video. I'm just letting you know that you can show your video. You don't have to accept. So, but I'm just doing that for everyone. And I unmuted everybody as well.
Hi.
So who thinks they know who's done it so far?
Well, I have a stirring.
I have no idea, but I was late.
I have an idea, but do we get to ask questions?
All right, here's the deal. So everybody that can get into chat, go and put who you think did it right now.
Nicole, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Who?
I'm gonna go back there and unmute everyone. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna
Detective
unmute
Justin.
all.
Did it, Francis did it.
Just in case. Inspector Poirot.
Believe me, he had
Over
the TV
here.
down to like number 12, and I was like, listen.
Maybe so.
You can hear it perfectly.
Everything I think
Everybody go into the chat and cast your vote.
Yeah, those are.
Oh, those one they put in the back of your ear?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
okay, yeah.
letters in the back. Paul tried those. He couldn't use.
Francis did it.
But that was.
Oh, no.
She is.
You are
Not in the music and all.
very just like when we were kids.
Faith, was that a cat or a dog that went by your back?
And it's
It was
like,
a dog.
it looks just like
She's
a
kind of like a cat, though.
little plug. It just goes in like it goes into the ear canal, and then it sits up there. And at first I screwed up because I didn't know the difference between on the volume. And I
We don't
literally,
have volume. We have to do it on your computer.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe these are different.
so but this one talks to this one. So when you go down on this one,
How do we throw everybody back?
Yeah.
so
How do you low? With your hands?
yeah, there's two little
Oh, no,
dots,
that's the
two
official.
little
That's
dots up there. You just
Yeah.
go. So I turned it down because I was getting sit there and look at the TV. I could hear the dishwasher, the birds, and
Throwing you guys back into attendees.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, so we're switching guys back so we can get started. So bye, everyone, we're gonna get started. We'll be doing that
Hi.
slowly.
I'm just saying, all you guys have some interesting ideas here.
I see her.
You guys are all doing such a good job. I'm just proud of you. You're really.
Love your mask.
good.
Just saying.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Pat.
Uh-oh.
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 What?
What? We need somebody?
I can hear you.
No. Are all our characters here?
Yeah.
Except
We've got an extra one.
I'm moving it.
Oh, Herb's here still.
Oh, Herb's still here.
No, we're missing.
We're missing somebody.
Go back to the attendee list and see who we're missing.
Luz, Leslie, Jenny, Jen, Rue.
Oh, there you are. Marion, hold on.
I got
Yeah.
it.
Marion.
Marion Earn. Where'd
I
Marion
just
go?
promoted
There.
Marion.
Hey.
Hi, Marion.
Marion. Welcome back.
We were this close to getting rid of you, Marion.
You're muted. There you go.
You tried, but you can't.
I'm gonna help him. I'm gonna help you, Francis.
You know,
No.
if either one of you is, you know, looking to upgrade your wonderful living, I've got some wonderful properties to show you around town. I mean, you know, get some waterfront. I mean, it's a great place to be.
I'll keep you in mind when I get my $1.5 million.
Oh, thank you for admitting I'm not guilty.
When I get my list of people I'm burying, I'll send them to you, Miss Broker.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to continue on now.
All right,
And
round two. Chris, will you get us started?
so the homicide detective said the murderer didn't drive a car to Leota's mansion. That means the murderer had to have been on foot or rode a bicycle. I don't live far from Leota. I could walk from my house to her house in about 15 minutes, I think. I mean, yeah, I think so. Anyway, early this morning around 5 a.m., I was out cleaning an old abandoned warehouse. 2 homeless people had died there. Ugh. And there was a ridiculous mess, as well as props from some type of cult activity. Black candles, weird symbol paintings on the concrete, straw dolls, daggers, all that icky stuff. Anyway, that's why the place was considered a crime scene. However, it was later found to be that they died of natural causes. The city still paid me to clean up the mess, but it was disgusting. I didn't get home until after 8 a.m. I can't think of any time I've ever been to Leota's mansion. However, I am going to go over there tomorrow to clean up everything once the crime lab clears it. I haven't traveled in about 3 years. I went to Seattle, Washington for a business trip. I've decided to be honest since I don't want to be seen as a liar. I didn't quit the crime lab. I was fired because I got busted being a cat burglar, and they forced me to quit and move to Dallas. But that doesn't mean I was a murderer. I have no experience with snakes. Oh, I wouldn't even know where to begin on how to hold a poisonous one. Oh, much less extract the venom for it. I mean, seriously.
I must admit that among all of the people who are listed as suspects, I am the only medical personnel who could have logically pulled this kind of murder off. However, anyone can read a book or watch an instructional video. If you are smart, you can find a way to learn how to do anything. The homicide detective said the murderer didn't drive a car to Leota's mansion. That means the murderer had to have been on foot or rode a bicycle. I live all the way across town from Leota's estate, and I don't own a bike or any type of other vehicle besides a car. I was home last night working on a jigsaw puzzle, and I had coffee in the hallway with 2 of my elderly neighbors this morning between 6 and 6:50 a.m. You know I live in a 55 and over community. I left for work, and I started my shift at 7 a.m. at the hospital. The only way I can imagine that I would be linked to Leota's mansion is when I drove by her mansion 2 years ago, and I walked to her greenhouse. I suppose soil or other trace evidence from her home might have been transferred to me or my shoes somehow, and then could still be in my home or on my shoes. I do have some shoes in my closet that I don't wear anymore. The police could have analyzed those. Other than that, I wouldn't expect that the trace analysis of the fibers, soil from the front flower beds, or any other trace evidence to link me to her mansion. And I haven't traveled anywhere lately. I can't even remember the last time I left the town of Dreary Hollow. It had to be over 10 years ago.
The homicide detective said the murderer didn't drive a car to Leota's mansion. That means the murderer had to have been on foot or rode a bicycle. I live very far from Leota and don't own a method of transportation. I walk to the cemetery. That's why I moved into an apartment beside the graveyard. Last night, I was doing surveillance at the graveyard. My primary job is a grave digger, but sometimes my boss gives me overtime hours to watch the grave diggers or teenage vandals. I can't think of any time I've ever been to Leota's mansion. I definitely have no good reason to go over there. So I hope the forensic report doesn't link me to her mansion. I haven't traveled outside of Dreary Hollow ever. So if the poisonous snake lives in Australia, I could not have traveled there to get it. I do have some experience with snakes. However, I have to deal with a few at the graveyard. Does anyone else think there would be another way to get snake venom?
I must admit, my best friend, Joe Reaper, is a local snake researcher who milks poisonous snakes of all kinds. I had access to all sorts of snake poisons, as I often visit Joe's lab, but I've never had access to a syringe, and I never given one an injection. If I were going to kill someone, I'd do it with a method I'm not familiar with. I'd shoot or stab them or something like that. Not that I've ever thought of that sort of thing. I haven't traveled anywhere lately. The last trip out of Dreary Hollow I took was to Englewood, Florida 2 years ago. I got this t-shirt there. I was at a meeting at school yesterday until 7 p.m. Then I went to my parents' home, had dinner, and spent the night over there. They have an alarm. If I tried to sneak out, they would have woken up. I must admit this, though. I was a bit immature. I collected dog poop from the neighborhood, put it in a box with an amateur bomb that was set for 2 hours later, so it would explode poop all over Leota's porch. That's why they had to call the bomb squad over to her home. She spotted it and called the police before it went off. I didn't know what I was doing when I built the thing. It wasn't meant to hurt her, just make a big mess. I did it because I was mad at her and wanted revenge. It was a mistake. Nobody was harmed.
Gabby.
The horrible homicide detective, who is very fastidious, said the murderer didn't drive a car to Leota's mansion. That means the murderer had to have been on foot or road or bicycle. I live across from Leota's estate, and I don't own a bicycle or any other vehicle besides my own work truck. I was watching movies all night long in my home. I woke up this morning to the homicide detective calling me and saying I was a suspect in this case. I was shocked and flummoxed. I treated Leota Xavier's mansion last week for spiders. I will probably be linked to her property via trace evidence because I've not worn the shoes lately that I wore at her mansion that day. At least I have a good reason for it. I just got back from Australia 2 weeks ago. I visited a friend who lives around the Australia Downs National Park. The two of us enjoyed the wilderness for about a month, traveling around the arena, the area. My friend is awesome, and he does not cajole me, nor is he a Svengali. I very Malden when I had to come home.
The homicide detective said the murderer didn't drive a car to Leota's mansion. That means the murderer had to have been on foot or rode a bike. I don't live far from Leota. I could have just hopped my back fence to get to her mansion. Last night, though, I stayed home. However, I was at my lab today at 4 a.m. I had a sample being incubated that had to be removed at exactly that time. And then I engaged in some research protocols with that sample for a bit before I packed it up to go home. The university will have record of when I disarmed my lab and when I armed it back at 7:45 a.m. I came home, took a shower, and got properly dressed for the day at work since I didn't have time to do it before I went to the lab in the middle of the night. I can't think of any time I've ever been to Leota's mansion. I wouldn't think that a soil analysis of my backyard would match the front flower beds or her front yard of her property, but stranger things have happened. I travel all the time. I've been all over the world in the last year. China, Russia, Australia, South America. I collaborate with other researchers, so I visit their labs. I hope that Sorrent has the murderer's fingerprints on it, and the case is solved easily. I cannot afford to be tangled up in a murder investigation. I have time-sensitive research to attend to.
Hey guys, so yeah. So the homicide detective said that the murderer didn't drive a car to Leota's mansion, and that means that the murderer had to have been on foot or rode a bicycle. I have 2 cars, but I don't have a bicycle or any other sort of off-road vehicle thing. Takes me 15 minutes to drive to her mansion. So last night, I stayed at home and I went to bed early. I was at a listing with clients this morning at 7 a.m. Yes, I know it's early, but they had to get to work, so we wanted the paper signed. It was across town from that mansion. I've been to her mansion. Okay, it's been like a week since I was there, and I highly doubt that my shoes would show any sort of evidence of being there because I wear the same shoes. Now, those shoes are my lucky ones, so I wear them every day to many properties around town. There's probably no way that any fiber or other trace evidence is going to be held on my shoes for that long, especially since I've traipsed through many flower beds to pick weeds before clients arrive on properties. I mean, it has to look great for them. I recently traveled to Sydney, Australia. I'll be honest with you. I was there about a month ago. I stayed there on a vacation for 8 days. If the snake is from there, well, maybe you guys should focus on who else has traveled there recently. I can't be the only one. I mean, if so, I might look suspicious.
Well, I admit that I was a former ethical hacker for the CIA. They busted me selling mink pelts and other illegal items on the dark web. I wasn't killing the minks for the fur. I was just purchasing the pelts illegally and selling them to furriers globally. I thought I was an entrepreneur. The FBI busted me, and part of my deal was to work for the CIA as an ethical hacker due to my skills. However, I only agreed to work for them for 5 years as part of the deal. So after doing that, I opened a funeral home. After all, I am a business person by heart. I haven't traveled out of Dreary Hollow in over 5 years, since I came here from Langley, Virginia, after I did my time with the CIA. Last night, I was watching Netflix, and I ate a whole box of Cheerios cereal. I got up at 9 a.m. and made my way to the funeral home by 9:15. The parlor opens at 9:30 a.m., and a few minutes later, I was contacted by police. I admit to going over to Leota's mansion 2 days ago. I was going to speak with her about my upcoming lawsuit. I had planned to threaten to take her to court if she didn't pay me what she owes. She didn't answer the door. I am deathly afraid of snakes, so you know I didn't do it. I only own a bicycle and a car. I live 10 miles from Leota's mansion. The homicide detective said that the murderer didn't drive a car to the mansion because they viewed the stoplight cameras on either side of the street, leading to her private drive. Only 2 neighbors exited the street on their way to work, but they were cleared as suspects. However, there are back ways to get to her mansion that could be reached on foot via an off-road vehicle or bicycle.
I haven't been to Leota's mansion. She always met me at my office in the middle of town. I used to travel all the time, but I've been so busy in the last year, I've not traveled anywhere. The homicide detective said the murderer didn't drive a car to Leota's mansion. That means the murderer had to have been on foot or rode a surfboard. I live in the adjacent town next to Dreary Hollow, but my construction office is here, and most of my jobs are here in town. I don't own a surfboard or any other off-road vehicles, just a bunch of work trucks. From what I understand, the murderer rang the doorbell of the Xavier mansion before sunrise. Leota must have answered the door, so if she looked out the peephole, it was likely someone she knew. She certainly wouldn't open the door to a stranger, would she? Leota did not have any cameras installed at her mansion. A jogger found her body at dawn. However, the jogger was cleared by the fitness software that recorded the jogger's route with timestamps. The jogger is not considered a suspect. The snake was endemic to Australia. Who's had the time to go to Australia?
You know, as everybody else, the homicide detective also told me that the murderer didn't drive a car to Leota's mansion. That means the murderer had to be on foot or ride a bicycle. I don't live far from Leota. I could definitely walk from my house to her house like about in 15 minutes, give or take. Last night, I was with my fiance, you know, and I was in my home having a dinner and watching some movies in the living room. Yep. And my fiance was over here maybe until midnight. And then I went to sleep. Then I was at Leota's mansion recently diffusing the bomb of her porch. I got called for that. I was linked to the mansion via trace evidence. That will be why. Bomb myself. Okay, I haven't traveled in about 5 years. I don't know the first thing about snake. I'm all about skulls. I didn't do well with my biology classes. That's not my thing. I'm about languages. That's why my accent. From what I have learned about hacking and the internet, you buy anything on the dark web. I'm good with that. Maybe the murderer could have bought the snake venom online. Just shake about that. The killer probably rang the doorbell, and when the victim answered, she was ambushed with a syringe. I'm just thinking about those things. And that's why it was in her chest. This morning, I was at work at 5 a.m. I never made the report for the bomb diffusion on Leota's mansion, and there was a staff meeting at 7 a.m. The reports are long, tedious, and associated with paperwork. That's too much. All the red tape, but I could lose my job if I don't turn it.
Oh, yeah.
So within the rigid, time frame, I was late as usual, but I knew my boss will ask me for it during the meeting. So I go for it then.
All right, and that is round 2.
So what we have, just to let you know, is we did a poll to see as a group who would think did it so far. And 33% of you guys think Dorian did it. Now then, Detective G. Keller will go on to let us know, to give us more details and instruction.
I actually, I asked my partner to join us. So would my co-detective join us? Detective, just in case, would you please read the forensic report?
You're muted.
Muted.
Am I mute?
There you go.
Now you're good.
Hey, Detective Keller, how are you?
It is Keller. The R is silent. Thank you.
Detective Poirot here, AKA Just in Case. So I've received the forensic report here. And here's what I found. I've dusted for fingerprints on the syringe sticking out of the victim's chest. It contained residue of inland Taipan snake venom. Can you hear me, Detective Keller?
Yes.
No fingerprints were found. The syringe was wiped out. I've also dusted for fingerprint all over the Xavier mansion, including the front door and the doorbell. And I found no unusual fingerprints. My team, our team, Detective Keller.
Yes.
I've reviewed the stoplights cameras on either end of the street leading to the victim's mansion, Gallows Hill Road. The murderer could not have driven a street vehicle to the crime scene. Now, here's the interesting part. We did a trace analysis of the mansion and each suspect. We found the following suspect had been to the front of the mansion within the last few days. Francis Bones, Marion Earn, Dorian Dark, Gabby Graves, and Scully Bloodman. The autopsy states the cause of death was a little dose of snake venom from the inland taipan, Oxyunerus microlepidotus, which is endemic to semi-arid region of Central East Australia. The victim died at 6:30 a.m. in the morning, of course. I presume the murderer rang the doorbell or knocked with the door knocker, and the victim answered the door. After being stabbed with the syringe on the front porch, the victim made her way to the front steps of her mansion. She collapsed midway down. Presumably, she was following the murderer after the attack. And there is where she died. About 30 minutes after the fatal injection, she was discovered by a jogger in the neighborhood around sunrise, 7 a.m. The jogger was cleared as a suspect. This is the results of my forensic report at this time.
Thank you, Detective Just in Case.
You are quite welcome, my dear.
Please don't call me dear. Danielle, I'm going to put you as an attendee now because you are not Chris as a suspect. So ladies and gentlemen, this is who your suspects are. Not Danielle, not Chris Dust, and not myself. So at this, and not Detective Just in Case. Please cast your final vote for who the murderer is. Francis Bones, Dorian Dark, Gabby, Marion, or Scully.
All I know is that one of you are a filthy murderer, and it's not me.
Everybody says it's me.
Last
It's not me.
chance,
It's
last
not me.
Last chance.
Alice. Oh, because they're not.
You know, I like the fact that nobody think I'm guilty.
I'm innocent. I'm innocent.
I got 2 people thinking you're guilty, Scully.
Look how cute. No.
Are we able to cast a vote too?
No, just in case.
Bringing Danielle back.
I didn't kill anybody. Francis Bones. I don't kill people anymore.
Anymore?
More?
Anymore.
Not me. Not me.
I don't need to kill them. They come in dead.
All right, Danielle, we're waiting on you.
I'm sure it's easy to make more business for yourself, Marion.
What do you want me to do?
I have plenty of business.
Huh?
You put up another poll?
Open up another poll?
No. Did you put up another poll, another vote?
No, I did not. I thought that we would do, like, they can put it, they can
Everybody
type
go
it in.
and go into the chat and cast your vote so we can see who voted for who. Everybody go
Right.
in
So
chat.
that way it's not anonymous.
Yep. Sorry, Danielle, that thing popped up because I didn't do it, I think. So it popped back up.
I'm just saying, I love you all.
Huh?
That's called bribery.
Why don't we start bringing everybody back into the room? We can bring everybody back in.
Okay, I'll start at the top.
We'll start at the bottom.
Who is Kathy? She just said her name. Who's Kathy?
Kathy Z.
Kathy Z.
No, who's Kathy? I want her address. I want everything.
Do I look guilty?
Demon.
Guilty face?
Yes.
No.
Yes, she does.
Demon. Demon. I want her address. It was me.
Lakewood Ranch Market Center. That's all I can give you.
Francis
Apparently,
Bones.
Kathy's got to go in a witness protection program.
I think it's Gabby, but she's not even on there. She's not even one of the choices.
There you go. The guilty
And I'm
person's
really
trying to
smart.
blame somebody else. Not even there.
I'm really smart, and I'm completely fooled. I don't know who did it.
We're almost done.
Can't be
You don't
me.
remember doing it, huh?
No, I was having coffee with
blackout?
my neighbors in the hallway of our 55 and over community. Come
Those
on.
old people don't even remember. You could just tell them that story and they would reiterate it.
No.
I have to report a problem. I've got-
Can I just say to everybody how much I hated Leota Xavier? I mean, she was just a mean, nasty woman.
She sure was.
You know, all of us are sitting here wasting our time over her death, but we need to figure out who the real killer was. We all had a part in knowing this miserable bitch.
Hi,
Pat's trying to talk.
I have a problem. I've been given 2 poll results, but I've not been able to vote. I've been able to vote forever. What a vote.
Pat, you have to put it in the
Pat,
chat
just type
box.
it into the chat box.
There is no chat box.
Oh, the chat box is gone.
There is no chat box.
Go to the bottom of your screen.
Pat,
and
on the bottom. Okay, everybody hold on. Pat. Who would you vote for?
I did post mine in the chat box.
Okay, we're all done. Okay.
No, I'm not good.
What did Pat say?
I was confused.
All I can do is view result.
Eris Spital.
Can you mute everyone?
Mute everyone? Okay.
Where's the chat box?
ITOL.
I just muted every single person, so
All right, we ready? Everybody ready for the results? Well, well, well. What do we have here? A bunch of would-be murderers. Folks, I have narrowed it down to one bad apple who will be arrested shortly. First, let me say a couple of you threw me for a loop because you looked guilty as all get out. Francis, had you not pulled such a low and dirty prank on the old woman, you wouldn't have thrown suspicion on yourself. But we know you're innocent. Dorian, you were a prime suspect for a hot minute, but we get that you couldn't have made your way to the estate this morning, so you're out. So, the suspect on fire was Marion Earn. You're busted,
That's what I
pal.
wanted to vote for.
A good cop to wear gloves during the crime, but you would have been smart to try and do a better job framing other suspects, because in the end, all evidence pointed to you. You purchased the poison on the dark web that you were very familiar with, by the way. You rode your bike, taking the back roads through the woods to her mansion this morning. You rang the doorbell, and she answered the door because she knew you. She wanted to give you a piece of her mind for ringing her doorbell so early. But then she saw that note from Dorian on her front porch. She bent down to pick it up as you dashed toward her. She stood up and you jammed the syringe into her chest. She was feisty and followed you down the front steps until the poison started to take hold of her. That's when she collapsed and you made a quick getaway. But that's not all we know, Marion Earn. Your background check arrived at the station about 30 minutes ago. Why didn't you tell anyone that Leota's fifth late husband was your older brother? Dun, dun, dun. Why wouldn't she know that you two were related? I'll tell you why. After a business deal gone wrong, your brother lost all of his millions. Without her knowledge, he was using Leota for her money, and you were in on the scam. He knew she was a black widow, but she outsmarted him and slipped him poison before he could murder her. Upon his death, you realized the gig was up and you weren't going to be getting any of her money. You wanted revenge. So now we all know what happened and can get on with our lives. Marion, you'll be doing some time in the slammer. Until I see you next time, I say goodbye.
Bye.
Now unmute everybody.
Yeah. Congratulations, Francis. Now you get all the money.
Almost got away with it. Justice is served.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
I did. I picked him. I picked him.
I told you it wasn't me. I just don't think that way.
Would you like more of this?
Almost got away with it.
Would you like
Drinks?
more?
Who's getting more of what?
What do you guys think for our first shot?
So early on, I thought it was Francis and Marion.
So Mike, you like the way it is, Miss Coffee?
Pam.
She prefers the half and half, but in a pinch she'll have this.
Dr. Bill?
That's what she does all the time.
What is that noise?
I don't know.
It's a
That's
go.
what you were gonna say.
Okay, I just want to make happy.
That's what you were gonna say.
Thank you all for coming and enjoying our first virtual murder mystery.
We hope you
Mike,
guys
you know what?
Even though I was going
Thank you.
I wish I would have known it was the.
It's
it
going to
was
be
the
Family
killer.
Feud, and so we're going to break y'all up into teams.
It was Leslie.
We have the music, we have the noise, we have
No,
singing,
your date,
everything.
your birthday, it tells you what kind of animal you are and all the specifications.
So they hear.
I
Her
can't
was-
hear.
she didn't-
Somebody's talking and we can't hear anything.
Hey, what do they call you?
Hey, Sierra.
I'm a snake.
Hi,
Today's calendar, I'm a snake.
How about this, everyone? Since the person who's talking is not listening, we're going to quickly mute everyone and then unmute yourself.
Yes, start over.
Yeah, we'll do that. I'm muting all y'all now.
You're okay.
to light up my shirt.
All right, guys. So on a thumbs up, was this something that we'd try again and do again? Or thumbs down? Oh, I got thumbs up. Yay.
I thought it was a lot of fun.
I thought we did good. I thought we had for our first
time.
I want to be innocent next time.
Sierra, I just unmuted you.
It was
Kathy and Paul, I unmuted you.
Now that I have been acquitted of this murder, Gabby Graves is taking a slight vacation. And I'm going up to the Chattanooga, Tennessee line for the next 10 days. Goodbye, everybody.
Be safe. Have fun.
Well, I got you beat. I'm taking a lot longer vacation than that.
I mean, with you.
You're out of here.
Well, to the participants, thank you for joining in with my goofiness. I wanted to do something like this for a while. To those that attended, I hope you had a blast. It was something different and took up made a memory for the evening. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Lisa. Detective Lisa.
What's up, Tori?
Happy birthday, Lisa.
I want to say something before you guys leave. I want to appreciate our staff and amazing people like Lisa, that it was her birthday yesterday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Lisa.
Happy
Lisa.
to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Lisa. Happy birthday to you.
I personally know most of you, and I'm going to say this to you all. Keep your day jobs. None of you were singing. There's nobody in here going on the road taking a little singing career there.
I love your honesty.
American Idol or something.
Next week, American Idol. Or After Family Feud.
Yeah.
Karaoke.
Judge.
Okay, so I'm very happy that, I was feeling like crap this morning. And I said, I need to give it, my best for tonight. And
You did great.
And actually, I really enjoy this.
You did great.
Well, and Luz, I know
was good.
Element, and Jen, I know you were nervous, and I know I asked you to do something that was out of your elements, and we all grew a little bit tonight, and so kudos.
Good job, guys.
I really hate talking in public, so.
And by the way, for those that are sitting here on the call too, if we do another one, if anybody else wants to join in on the fun, let us know. We can get a bigger cast and have some fun. So
I might join in, maybe.
Yeah. And then, we could also kind of do this in the office and have people walk around to the different rooms.
Oh, yes.
And every person is in a room and they decorate that room as their scene. So we'll still have a good social distancing.
You guys, I have to tell you, I just adored what you did. I had no idea you were doing all this. And look what you put together. I mean, you had these different characters and you had your lines. You had a video earlier this week. Today, I just applaud you. That was so fun. I love you all.
We had a good time.
Good job.
It was fun.
I just really wish I could give everybody a hug on here right now.
Right.
Right now. So much.
Virtual hugs.
Hugging.
So when all this ends, just all be prepared.
Prepared. I know what you mean.
Everybody be prepared because it's coming.
Something to look forward to, though.
Danielle, I don't think we've had a Luz hug yet.
Oh my gosh.
No, I don't think so.
Oh yeah.
And by the way, Danielle, wear your hair like that. I love it. I really do.
Our new team leader.
Woo!
Knocking it out of the park.
Danielle.
Whoa.
I'm not all in.
It's easy. You can pull it off every day.
There you go.
Guess what, Danielle? Your office is close to my office. Get
We
ready.
will be
You
getting.
guys, I have to tell you something. I've gotten to know Danielle. We are blessed. We have an awesome team leader that we have not had a team leader. We have one now. And you are going to learn to love and adore and respect this woman. Oh, damn. We are blessed.
Thank
Game
you.
on.
Absolutely.
I love you guys. I mean, it's kind of crazy how like I love y'all virtually, so I know it's gonna be like having to finally see all of you. Like, so expect a lot of inappropriate hugging from me.
Yeah.
He's a hugger.
I am.
You'll fit
I
right
am.
in.
And the fact that I've been alone in a house for the past month, I am so. Pat understands, but you have animals, so you're the lucky one.
She's missing her dogs.
Yeah.
I know. My dog walker sent me pictures of my dogs today being walked. I was like, oh, they're so cute. Look, I can't wait. I'm going to go and bring them up in June.
Can you show us a picture of them?
Let's see.
All right, guys, I'm gonna get off, but I don't think I close out, right? Like if I close, everything closes?
No, just go leave meeting. Don't exit. Just leave.
Don't close, Lisa. Just walk away.
I text you, Lisa.
Yes, I'll call you tomorrow, honey.
Here's my
Mwah.
dog. Hold on.
Yeah, I want to see the dogs.
Wait, we can't see him. Oh no, I can't see
We're
him.
looking.
Oh, there's one.
Aw.
It.
That's a silver
Oh,
lab.
you got a puppy. You got a puppy.
No, they're 4 years old.
Is it a
And
lab?
this is my chocolate lab.